You ever have one of those business ideas that just feels perfect? Like, so good you can almost taste the success? Well, today we're going to take one of those ideas and put it under the microscope. We're going to run it through a really powerful strategic framework to see if it actually holds up. Let's get into it. So imagine you want to open a business, a drive-thru coffee shop, to be exact. It just seems like a total winner, right? I mean, people love coffee, they love convenience, and you see these little shops popping up everywhere. You can just picture it. Lines of cars, happy customers, that amazing smell of fresh coffee. It really feels like a can't-miss opportunity. But here's the big question. How do you get past that gut feeling and actually understand the industry you're about to jump into? How do you know if it's a great market or a battlefield where profits are incredibly hard to find? That's what we've got to figure out. To do that, we're going to use a tool called Porter's 5 Forces. Think of it like a strategic MRI for an entire industry. It helps you see the whole competitive landscape and understand where the real pressures are coming from. This isn't about wishful thinking. It's about being strategic. So this model breaks down the whole competitive world into 5 key pressures. You've got the threat of new companies coming in, the power of your suppliers, the power of your customers, the risk of substitute products, and right there in the middle of it all, the rivalry among all the existing players. So let's walk through how each one of these applies to our coffee shop idea. Let's start right in the middle with rivalry. This is all about how intense the fight is between the businesses that are already in the drive-thru coffee game. In the verdict for our coffee shop idea, the rivalry is high. I mean, really high. This isn't some quiet little pond. It's a super crowded swimming pool, and everyone is splashing around. So why is it so crazy competitive? Well, just think about your own morning coffee run. You've got a ton of choices, right? There are local stands, big national chains, cafes. They're all fighting for your $5. The coffee itself is pretty similar from place to place, which leads to price wars. Deals, promotions, loyalty cards. And for you, the customer, switching is super easy. If your usual spot has a long line, you just drive 100 feet to the next one. No big deal. And all of that high rivalry puts a ton of pressure on prices and profit margins. It forces you to constantly find ways to be different, which is tough when you're all selling, well, coffee. Okay, so the current competition is fierce. Now let's look at our second force. How easy is it for someone else to see you doing well and decide to set up their own shop right across the street? This is what we call the threat of new entrants. And for our potential coffee shop, this is another huge challenge. The threat of new competitors showing up is moderate to high. Basically, the door to this industry isn't locked. It's pretty much wide open. Let's break that down. On the one hand, it's actually pretty easy to get started. The startup costs, for a small shack and an espresso machine are manageable. All the technology is widely available. There aren't any secret patents on a good latte. But on the other hand, a couple of things make it harder. Finding that perfect high-traffic location, that can be really tough and expensive. And building a brand that people know and trust, that takes time and effort. But still, these barriers aren't high enough to stop a determined competitor for very long. Okay, so we've got fierce rivals and a revolving door for newcomers. When you look at these first 2 forces together, you start to see a pretty challenging picture forming for our coffee shop idea. So let's just recap what we found so far. You've got high rivalry from existing competitors, which puts this constant squeeze on your prices and your profits. And on top of that, you have a moderate to high threat of new people entering the market, meaning new competitors can just pop up really easily, keeping that pressure on. The big picture here? It's an industry that is structurally very, very tough to succeed in. Now look, this kind of analysis isn't meant to crush your dreams. Not at all. It's meant to help you build smarter ones. By understanding these competitive forces, you can start to build a real strategy to deal with them, not just for a coffee shop, but for any business idea. So the real takeaway is this. Before you dive headfirst into your next big idea, stop and ask yourself, what are the invisible forces shaping this industry? Answering that question, that's your real first step to success.